Frank's Red Hot is the perfect blend of flavor and heat, so you can use an entire bottle to make recipes like buffalo chicken dip or buffalo nachos, or even things that don't start with buffalo. Frank's Red Hot, I put that on everything.
Hey, Craig.
Hey Jeff, it's been a long time since we recorded ourselves talking.
Yeah, it has. Like the other day I was kind of looking at the list of podcasts and I was like, oh shit, man, we haven't recorded since, oh man, the last one we did was a preview of the Texas A&M game. That was a while ago, Craig.
Yeah, it's been a while.
Much has happened.
That was in April or March, right? So we are 3 weeks. It's been a wild few weeks. My work has been insane. I haven't had a lot of free evenings. You've had sick family members, and like it's just been one thing after another that have kept us from recording because, you know, we're like normal humans. This is not our job. But we are back. We took our little vacation.
Yeah. Little vacation.
Yeah, we're ready. We're ready to go. So there's been a lot that has happened. So we better get the episode going. This is Podcast versus Everyone. I'm Craig Powers. This is episode 164. With me for the 164th time is Jeff Nusser. How are you doing tonight, Jeff?
Yeah, I'm good. I'd be doing better if I felt a little more certain about what our basketball roster was going to look like next year. But, you know, I have a lot of faith. I have faith that's going to work out. So, you know, things are okay. And then in school, by the way, you're talking about your job. So my job for the last 2 months, I've had a student teacher. Now, the thing about student teachers is that, you know, because you were a student teacher, it can kind of go two directions, right? Like it can be a pretty good experience, like a really good experience, or it can be a really terrible experience, both for the mentor teacher and the student teacher. I was really lucky. I had a really good student teacher for like the last 2 months, but now he's done. And so I had to take over today and damn it, Craig, I actually had to work for my money. Actually I took over yesterday. So 2 days now, 2 days I had to work for my money and actually teach kids stuff. So I'm a little tired. But I'm going to power through.
So that's interesting. He was done, but like, was it the end of the quarter for his school or something? Like how?
Yeah. So basically they leave it up to the student teacher and their mentor teacher to figure out kind of the time frame that they're going to student teach. And so what I did was what my mentor teacher did for me, which was, okay, so in fact, with him, he's been with me since September, like not every day, not all day, but like, kind of in and out, observing, doing lessons here and there. When I have a substitute, he wanted to teach. So I'm like, cool, you can teach, like if I have a sub, I'm sure the sub appreciates that too. So, so he had been doing that. And then, so the plan was, when we start second semester, start third quarter, which is at the beginning of February, I was like, all right, dude, when it's time, when that new semester starts, you got a clean slate, clean grade book. It's you, and you're going to do it you're going to do all my classes for all of third quarter. And we send him away. Now, if I wasn't already really confident that he was going to be good, I probably wouldn't have done that. But my mentor teacher did that for me, and it was really actually super valuable because a lot of people, I don't know what yours was like, but a lot of mentor teachers kind of ease the student teacher in. They pick up like one class and they pick up another class, and then eventually they pick up all the classes maybe for like 2 weeks, and then they sort of ease them out after that. Which is fine. And if that's what people do, that's fine. But also, like, it doesn't really give you the full meal deal experience, you know, cause there's definitely a little bit of a honeymoon period with a new teacher. And, you know, once you get past those first 3-4 weeks, then it's like, okay, you know, you're sort of out of all the good tricks, all the good lessons that you learned in college that you're like, all right, I can do this. I'm going to do a Socratic seminar, which is a thing you can do like once a month, right? Like you can't do it much more often than that, you know, so they pull out their bag of tricks, and then all of a sudden they're left with sort of the day-to-day monotony. And the kids,
absolutely,
you know, when they loved you, they still like you, but they're also like, man, you're kind of boring now. You know, it's like, so you got to figure out a way to fight through that, and, you know, contact parents when kids, you know, don't do anything for a month and a half, you know, that kind of stuff. So yeah, so he just wrapped up right I had him go till spring break. That was pretty much the end of third quarter. So spring break ended, and yesterday we were back, and my God, was I rusty. Let me tell you, man. Normally when I'm rusty, the kids are rusty too, right? Cause we're all coming back from summer break. So we just kind of ease kids aren't rusty right now, man. They're like, hey man, you know, we were on the stretch run to the end of the school year. You better bring it, Nooser. So I'm up there, you know, doing my little dance and being an entertainer and trying to convince them that Hamlet's going to be interesting. So, you know.
Well, you know, I was only on the other end, and you know, obviously I had one foot out the door as soon as I started student teaching. I was like, you know, I definitely went into that bag of tricks.
Like you already knew that wasn't for you.
But yeah, you know, I did my best. I remember that, like, I did it basically the WSU semester. So from, you know, the start of school until start of the high school year until, you know, the first week of December. And I remember I was just peace out. Like, I didn't even care. Cause I'm like, I'm not doing this. Like, I'm not really worried about anything. Like, I'm done. And then I you know, moved over to Seattle and then never came back. Yeah. So, that's, but yeah, I guess we could talk about WSU sports now. You know,
this isn't student teacher talk.
Student teacher talk. Everyone's favorite. Although, you know, we do, you know, we've talked about it with Sherwood, and I don't want to give away the name, but, you know, maybe we will have to get a transfer portal podcast going, you know, with Bryce too. And, you know, cause now the transfer portal is a big thing. WSU so far has had four players enter the transfer portal in increasing sadness.
Increasing importance and sadness.
So the two most recent ones, of course, being Noah Williams and F.A. Abogidi. And it's crazy to think back to that Texas A&M game, which I haven't talked about. And honestly, I don't want to talk that much about it. It was just it was a shitty end to what was a fun run before that, and a shitty end to what apparently was that roster. You know, that it wasn't just Michael Flowers that was leaving. So obviously Noah entered the portal, and you know, there was this kind of there was a lot of people saying he could end up at UW, and you're like, I don't know, man. Like, do they really want him? He doesn't seem, you know, I kind of thought maybe he'd be transfer to a lower, like a mid-major type school where he can, be the guy. But, he might actually get to be the guy at that fucking school in Seattle, Washington, where he has now transferred, after being one of the biggest Husky haters, and then also one of the prime targets of Husky students, with some pretty nasty comments towards him. To now be in purple is wild. And then when you started looking at it, like, shit, they lost their top two guards. Obviously they lost a guy that was shooting 30+% of the shots, dominating possession. They might be having Noah come over to be their point guard, which would not shock me if he maintains big usage and is kind of their guy.
Yeah, I mean, they might. If they are, I think it's okay. From a WSU perspective, I think that's a great idea. Let Noah take 30% of the shots. But if I was a Husky, God forbid, I'd look at that and go, that seems like a terrible idea. I mean, we talked, away from, we have our Slack chats that we do, with the people who are sort of hoops heads. And, one of the things that we talked about, one of the things I said was, look, I love Noah. I mean, maybe not many people remember this, but I was the original president of the Noah Williams fan club. You can vouch for this, right?
Absolutely.
That was me. I love the kid. I think he's great. That first year or two, the coaches talked about, how great Noah was, how much, he loved being a Coug. Obviously he's a legacy. His dad was a Coug, that kind of stuff. Sister did go to UW, but his dad was a Coug. So, okay, there you go. And, but I was like, as much as I love him and as much as he was, I think really kind of important to changing the culture of the program from what it was under Ernie Kent and, kind of his spunk and his drive and his, his, I don't know, for lack of a better term, his shithousery, that he engaged in. That's a soccer term. They engaged in on the court. You don't even have to know what I mean when I say shithousery to probably know exactly what I'm talking about. So that kind of stuff was all, I think, really necessary the first couple of years. And then of course his struggles this year were well documented. We've talked about them. I didn't want him to leave, right? Like I wanted him to stay.
Yeah.
But also when he decided to go, I was also like, yes, I understand. And I don't think it'll be that tough to find a player to replace or exceed his production. Like he was, if you're not a Coug fan and you look at his stats, and I'm not even just talking like his, counting stats. I'm talking like efficiency stats, rate-based stats, things like that. The kind of stuff you and I use all the time and our coaching staff uses all the time to try and compare players, try to figure out, how good are they really? What level are they playing at? Things like that. If you look at his rate-based stats for 3 years, it's really tough to make a case that he's a high major player, to be honest. We have emotional attachment to him for various reasons. I just loved the way that he would stick it to UW. You sacrificed your Achilles for him. I mean, we all have our reasons why we loved Noah Williams. And yet when he left, I was sort of like, yeah, I mean, I'm bummed to lose him, but also, he wasn't good this year, obviously, but even the level he played at last year was probably not good enough to be a super significant contributor on a team that has the aspirations that this team has. So in that sense, I wasn't super bummed that he left. It just seemed like kind of the right decision for everybody. Of course, when he picked UW, I was like, man, I can't be mad at him really, because I can't hate on a kid for making a decision. But, I look at the whole thing. I just kind of don't get it. I mean, other than the fact that he's from Seattle and, Mike Hopkins seems to offer every transfer who's from Seattle. So, I mean, maybe that's it. I don't know, but, I don't know, man. Noah, I just don't see the fit there. He's a great on-ball defender and he's going to play zone. And is he a point guard? I don't think he is. He handled the ball way more this year, I think, than people actually realize. I don't know. I don't get it, but I also don't, I don't hate the kid. I think, I don't think it makes us that much worse, and I don't think it makes Washington that much better. So that's probably also playing into it.
Yeah. Obviously, it's you wanted to see him turn around at WSU,
yes,
and make an impact, but it just kind of seemed like maybe he wasn't, a big fit, at times. He didn't really want to, especially if you have a guard who's not going to hit threes. Like that's a challenge. on a team.
Well, unless that guy is really, really good at twos, right?
Which he hasn't.
That's how you have to be super efficient around the basket if you're not going to be able to shoot threes, and he hasn't been either of those.
Really struggled on that this season. But yeah, and when his 3-point percentage dipped back down this year, that was just rough to watch, and it was just it was so his stroke just was so much more inconsistent, and when he missed bad. Like it was bad, and maybe he can come back. He's a guy that's fueled by people not believing in him, that type of person. Like he fueled by vengeance at times. So I'm sure he's going to try to go all out against WSU, the two, maybe 3 times they play. And so that's a little worrisome, but also at the same time, if he's having a bad day, that could be very good for WSU, obviously.
Yeah.
But yeah, it sucks. Like he was a fun guy and had some great moments, obviously, at WSU. But like you said, he probably wasn't going to be a major factor next year, as we saw his role diminish throughout this year. But one guy that could have been an incredibly huge factor for WSU this season. I wrote a story about F.A. Abogidi a couple weeks ago about how good he actually has been and how good his sophomore season was, despite a lot of people thinking he didn't improve, and how good he was this year and how good he was compared to other sophomore players who have had good careers. But FA first declaring for the draft, but maintaining eligibility was one thing. So you're like, oh, maybe he can come back to WSU. But then a few days later, entering the portal, and it looks like he's not coming back. It doesn't. He released his list of teams.
That video also made it very clear.
Yeah, that video, and then releases his list to John Rothstein, which is I don't even know how he fit it into the tweet. It was so amazing. Many schools, including Washington and Gonzaga. So many schools. He's obviously, you shouldn't be surprised. He's going to have a ton of interest. As I laid out in my piece, he is very good.
He's really, really good.
And he was a huge factor in how WSU's defense became very good in the last 2 years. And he obviously has just kind of scratched the surface of his offense, which maybe is part of the reason why he's leaving, is that he wants to go somewhere where maybe he has a little more offensive freedom, I guess. I don't know. But sometimes it's like, yeah, that maybe they're not going to let you shoot more threes because you're only hitting 25% of them. I don't know. But at the same time, like I fully believe he will. I fully believe he will be a guy, either here or either in college or in the pros that will become a 35% 3-point shooter. He's got the stroke to do it. You see how he hits free throws. So, this one is a bummer. It was one thing if he goes to the NBA. It's one thing if he goes to the NBA because that's great for him. That's also great for WSU because you can talk about how, guys come here, they go to the NBA. You point to Ellaby, you point to FA. But if he goes somewhere else and then goes to the NBA, that juice is lost.
Right. You don't get that credit.
You don't get that credit anymore. No one's given Ernie Kent credit for Malachi Flynn going to the NBA. So, no one even talks about him as a Coug really besides us, and us meaning Cougs. Like the 14 people that are paying attention to basketball when Malachi Flynn was playing here. But now if FA goes somewhere else and probably, I'd say plays one more year and goes to the NBA or goes, plays somewhere professionally, we don't get any credit. And I laid out in my piece, I think, he's already a defensive player, NBA level defensive player. And if you have something like that, and if he can hit threes, like he can have a long career in the NBA. And hit alley-oop dunks, offensive rebound. Like he's got tools already that, you know, if an NBA team wanted to take a chance on him, they could. It seems the way he's entered the portal and is exploring that, maybe he's not feeling like he's getting the feedback that he necessarily wants. I don't know. But yeah, this is a bummer. This is pain. Like, this has caused me some pain in the last few days. You know, Friday is when he entered the portal. Today, Tuesday is when he released that list with a couple of the big no-nos on there. You know, you got, after what happened with Noah, you're just like, gosh, who knows where he's going to end up. But yeah, man, this is a bummer, and can't sugarcoat it. FA is a great player, and he is not going to play at WSU again.
Yeah. I mean, something I think you said it on the Slack, but you know, from the moment he stepped on the floor with us, we were like, man, we're going to be lucky to get 2 years out of this guy. Like that was kind of the feeling right away. And, you know, well, here we are 2 years later, and there you go. I mean, you know, a lot of people are going to lament the transfer rules. And by the way, let's be very clear. He may not end up transferring at all. He just might end up in the draft. So that's what we're all rooting for. It's best for him, best for us. Like, so cross our fingers. You know, let's hope that's where it goes. But, you know, if he does transfer, I mean, it's, you know, a lot of people are going to lament the new transfer rules, and, you know, it's a bummer. But, you know, I will still maintain at this point, you know, maybe it changes in the future. I don't know. But, you know, at this point, as far as WSU goes, transfers have been a net positive. Like you cannot argue that it's been anything but a net positive at this point. That the people we have added across various sports have been better than the people we have lost across various sports. Now, FA stings. He stings a lot, especially if he transfers, you know, Gonzaga, or like when I'm thinking like where he might end up, you know, if he does decide to transfer to another school and not enter the draft, you know, I'm like, man, put him on a team that like runs like crazy and just lets him run up and down the floor. You know, a team like Baylor, right? A team like Arizona, you know, just one of those high tempo teams that allows him to really just kind of get out and show off his athleticism. Cause, you know, with our team, he doesn't, you know, I mean, let's be honest, he doesn't really get a chance to do that very often. Because we don't push the ball like that. We don't attack like that. So, you know, there are places he could go that would maybe show off his offensive skill set, or at least what he could do there. Maybe a little bit better than what we could. Maybe it's really not just all about threes. I mean, I don't know, but I do know this. Like, if he ends up one of those places, I can't be mad at a kid, you know, for wanting to do that. You know, this is a guy who's from, you know, I just have to remind myself. I mean, he's from Nigeria, and not only is he just from Nigeria, but he went from Nigeria to an NBA Africa academy, and I'm trying to remember where it was, and I'm drawing a blank, but he essentially had to move away from home, right, to do the NBA Africa Academy. And then he moves halfway across the world to do the NBA Australia Academy. And then he moves another halfway across the world, maybe a third of the way across the world, to go to Pullman.
NBA Academy at Africa is in Senegal.
There you go. Okay, so he went from Nigeria to Senegal to Australia to Pullman, right? I mean, this is a kid who's been everywhere to chase his dream. And, you know, Pullman was another stop on the way. And, you know, so I just can't be mad. I would have a real hard time if he picked Washington.
With
Noah, it was kind of like, okay, he's from Seattle, you know, whatever. And also, as I said, I mean, I just don't think he makes them that much better. If FA goes there, my God, like, even if he ends up at Gonzaga, like, I couldn't even be mad if he went to Gonzaga, if I'm being honest. As much as I hate Gonzaga, like, couldn't even really be mad about that, because I'm just like, yeah, I get it. Like, they play that same up tempo, like he would run and dunk, and, you know, he'd be a monster. Okay, you know, great. So, man, I don't know. I'm probably talking in circles at this point, but, yeah, I hope he ends up in the draft. I really do. Cause again, that's better for him, and, you know, better for us. And, Yeah. I hope that's the way it works out.
Yeah. And one point about NILs and people screaming about name, image, likeness deals here. Unless FA, which it seems unlikely, unless FA has a work visa, which it's really unlikely that he has a work visa.
Correct. He's got a student visa. That's what
he can't do the NIL. Like, he can't do anything that qualifies as work.
Yeah,
like
literally cannot.
No income that qualifies as work.
Get tossed out of the country if they catch you doing that.
Yeah. So usually with these international students, they don't qualify for this stuff. So FA not necessarily getting wooed the same way. It's probably more like you said, or like we both said, a style of play type thing. And then maybe the chance to be at a school, and someone said it, I can't remember who said it, but looking at, I bet some of those players, like, saw what happened with Kuntz this year. He got to go to a Sweet 16. He was in the, he was in one shining moment. And so, he was on national TV making plays. And, the funny thing is that, no one saw that coming out of Iowa State. They were fucking awful last year. But they brought in a bunch of transfers and they got a lot better. And so, maybe FA, if he's going to UW, Noah's like, hey, come on over. Like, which, we've heard that they were roommates, I guess. So that if you want to be more nervous about that, the issue with FA at UW is he's just going to be a 25%, 50% better player than Nate Roberts playing the same position on both ends of the floor.
They play slow. They slow.
Their offense
not necessarily not totally, but just the game overall is slow, right?
Yeah, but their offense,
if you want to be, it's fine. But I mean, I think a lot of that was Terrell Brown, right? I don't know how much of that is just sort of the philosophy of the offense in general. Like, they've been, they were painfully slow, I think, 2 years ago. I mean, I don't know.
No, they've been in I think you're thinking 2019. 2020, they were 96 in tempo, adjusted tempo on KenPom. Last year, 53rd. This year, 59th.
But I'm thinking, I'm thinking offense. So let me look. I guess they were 69th last year, not this past year, but the year before, and 46th the year before that. So yeah, I guess they play faster on offense than I realized. So I guess I was wrong about that.
Yeah. So I don't know. So maybe
it just feels that way.
Yeah,
because of the defense.
I mean, just because of their defense, and Syracuse is always slow, so you kind of associate with that. But yeah, I don't. It like what are they going to give FA a bunch of chances to post up? I don't know. So it's just please don't go there, dude. The one thing was he tweeted out that gif of a dude like with a the same, he said, like, watching Twitter today, and a guy's like sipping a drink and looking around, and it's like right when Noah committed to UW, and that just, now I'm looking at that through a whole different lens. It's just like, oh geez. But yeah, I hope, I think he's got a decent shot to impress some people in terms of getting to the NBA. He's still he's still an outside shot. Like, he doesn't show up in any sort of draft projections. So he definitely
But neither did CJ Ellaby.
Yeah, neither did Ellaby. That's very true. Yep.
Right? We all just went, man, I don't get it. Right? And then, and then the Trailblazers picked him. So, I mean, look, FA, I don't watch a ton of NBA. I try to watch as much as I can. I try, right now it's the playoffs, try to watch a bunch. But it's like, I do know this. A guy with his defensive skill set could fill a role on a team right now. That's, with what he does defensively, he doesn't have to do much offensively, in order to contribute. Now, is that, being a stud, is that making a lot? No. But that's like, could he play 15, 20 minutes? off the bench and playing defense and generating steals and blocking shots and just, being a pest. Yeah. He could do that, So for me, I think what that means is, there could be a team, especially if a team that's, pretty good, down at the end of the first round that looks at him and goes, boy, this guy with this set could fill this need on our team right now. We're not rebuilding, so we can bring him along. We can develop him. And, oh, by the way, while we're trying to develop his offensive game, he can, give us 15, 20 minutes a night, just play an awesome defense. I think that's entirely plausible. He's not a finished product, but he's so good at what he does that he can play. You can play him. So I would not be shocked if he ends up staying in the draft and that happens. But also wouldn't be shocked if he just goes, man, I want to be a lottery pick someday. I don't see him with lottery pick upside. I'm just going to be really blunt about that. Cause he just has such a long way to go offensively to get into that kind of a conversation.
And we have to say the injury history and
yes, that's
NBA teams. These are, they're big these are millions of dollars investments and they play 82
games.
They play 82
damn games.
Yep. And so
this is a guy who had to take every other practice off on a college team.
Yeah.
Playing 2 games a week or 3 games a week,
Yep.
That's pretty tough.
Yeah. So, we'll see. I'm sure that'll all kind of shake itself out in the next couple weeks. And we'll know. But yeah, so
I think the hardest part is that we haven't added anybody yet, right?
Yep,
that's the hardest part.
Just about to get to that. Yeah. So they haven't, there's some feelers out there. We saw that, Jared Lucas from Oregon State WSU's in his top 3. And then the high schooler, Drama DeYoung, he's, WSU's in one of his final 3, I believe.
He's when people listen to this, he'll be visiting.
Yeah, he'll be visiting, and I think it's his last visit, really. So that's always a good sign. He hasn't committed, and now he's coming to Pullman. Hopefully they can convince him. It would have been probably a lot nicer to have Efe there, but or maybe it's not. I don't know. Maybe he sees more minutes.
I think it's better that he's not, man. You're trying to commit. A kid like that wants to play right away. And if you've got 3 big men, hey, come here. I don't think that flies, but now there's clearly some minutes available for a 7-foot athletic 7-foot kid.
And WSU got in on him pretty early. He seems to be a riser. The football player's kid from Spokane. We did sign him.
Yeah. Dylan Darling.
Dylan Darling. He does not seem like, to me, a guy that's gonna be an immediate contributor. He looks like he's got to add a little bit of size.
Yep.
He does seem like they're trying to hit on a late riser here because he really came on his senior year, really filled it up. The scoring is there. He's lefty, so it's a little weird. That always throws defenses off a little bit. But yeah, his other offers were from Idaho State and Seattle Pacific. So it's not the high profile recruits that Smith's staff has been bringing in pretty regularly so far. So that was a bit interesting to see them go for him. But so it'll be interesting to see it play out. I don't see him being an immediate impact player, but I do see DeYoung. And obviously, if they can get Jared Lucas, he would be an instant starter.
Yep.
And potentially leading scorer on the team.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of our listeners might not remember him. So why don't you bring him up to speed on kind of what his profile is?
Yeah. So Jared Lucas, if you remember their run to the Elite Eight 2 years ago, he was big in that. Roughly the same player this year on a much worse team, but really his stats were almost exactly the same. And that's kind of, except he was a lot better at twos this year. Just a little bit higher turnover rate, a little bit lower free throw rate, which I think was more of a result of not playing with some other scorers that were also drawing fouls. But yeah, so he is number one above all else, a microwave 3-point shooter. One of those guys that will hit 4 or 5 in a row. He's got good size. He's 6'4". His defense, iffy, maybe a question, but there's no question about what he's got offensively. And if a guy's at least got size on defense, that can help a lot. And we got away with a guard in Flowers who wasn't an elite defender by any stretch of the imagination this year. So you don't need superstar defenders there. You got to have a scorers in there. And this is, Lucas is a guy, definitely not this type of scorer that Flowers would be. They would definitely not be a guy that would come in and handle the ball a lot. Like, he did not do that. He is running off screens. Thinking of more of as like a Klay Thompson type, like when Klay was a freshman at WSU, or like a Derek Lowe type when he was a junior, senior, where he's just going to run off screens and launch threes, potentially get up at, post up. We saw him post up WSU's small guards when WSU played Oregon State back to back. So he's an interesting player. He's just truly a catch and shoot most of the time guy. But just a very good catch and shoot shooter, particularly from the outside.
The one thing that's interesting to me is that he's not a high usage player, and we watched him the 2 games this year, and I was trying to figure out why he wasn't higher usage, because sometimes it's with a guy like that, it's just because they're really selective. Right. Like they just kind of, pick and choose their spots. They only take a 3 if they're wide open. Jazz Coons was kind of a guy like that, last year for us. Right. Like he was really only going to take a shot if it was wide open. DJ Rodman might be a similar kind of player. Right. So, their efficiency kind of gets pumped up because of the shots are a little less challenging. That's kind of not the case with Lucas. Like, he'll take a 3 with somebody's hand right in his face. Like, he'll take a difficult mid-range jumper from time to time. So I'm not sure. I'm kind of not sure, why he's not, pushing like high 20s in usage. Why he's kind of sitting, I don't know what he was last year, 22%.
Yeah.
Or 21%
I honestly
or something
thought,
like that.
I thought when Ethan Thompson left, he was going to be like a much higher usage player this year. But then, of course, they brought in Deshaun Davis, and he became the dominant ball handler. But yeah, he just kind of maintained right where he was, 22% shot percentage, 90% usage, which is low stuff. Like, that's not a, that's like your third offensive player usually, your third go-to guy.
And maybe that's what we need. Like, I think you could make a case that, we don't need someone to come in and, take 28% of the shots and, just kind of take over. What we really need is some guys all shooting around, like 21, 22%, right? Like, you feel better about Ty Roberts if he's at about 22%, right? You feel good about TJ Bamba if he's right about 22%. You probably feel good about Yakimovsky if he's right there. Muhammad Gay might end up being the exception to that. If he develops the way I think, you and I both think he could, he might be the exception as a 7-footer with sort of a silky stroke. If he can get some consistency with that shot.
I do think also, Deshaun Jackson could be a higher usage player if they choose to feed him, because he was pretty high usage at times his freshman year when they were choosing to feed him in the post quite a bit. Yeah.
I just feel like if you have a lot of options that all can be a threat, high efficiency threats at, 20 to 24% type usage, it's a pretty good spot to be. I mean, that's kind of what we were doing at the beginning of the year when we were all excited about the offense, right? Like, this really balanced, super efficient offense. So I think I'd be really excited to add a guy like Jared Lucas. I understand why he wouldn't necessarily fire up a lot of fan bases, because, they might look at him and go, well, is he really, an impact kind of guy? Is he really going to make that much of a difference? Yeah, he's efficient, but, pretty low, not low usage, but you know what I mean? Like low-ish. Just, is he really the guy that's going to move the needle? But I think for this team, he would be a super positive addition. And then, you talked about, Madrame, he's, at least I assume that's how you pronounce it. He's a lot like Mo, similar build, similar look, similar athleticism. Again, you lose FA and that sucks and that's rough and all those things. But again, you're still sort of going, twin tower shot erasers, and then, Deshaun Jackson, who's not really much of a shot blocker, but he's pretty good at being big. And that's a skill in itself. So, you land those two guys, all of a sudden you start feeling pretty good, because the guard situation right now is a little, you're putting a lot of faith in Miles Rice to be good after redshirting. And then you got Ty Roberts and, so I think you're still looking to add two guards, at least at this point.
Yeah.
You add someone like Lucas. Great. Lucas is a 2-guard, 2/3, maybe bring in a point guard. Hopefully one that's not, sub 6 foot tall. And then, and then kind of roll from there. Cause, as I look at this roster, I'm like, yeah, they're basically like, even if you weren't thinking about the things they lost, right? That's always kind of the hard thing. Like you end up thinking, oh my God, we lost Noah. We lost FA. What if we had FA, right? All year long, people are gonna be like, well, if we still had FA, right? That's going to happen. But if you just look at the guys on the roster, man, that is a really solid, talented core of guys. Now, assuming we don't lose anybody else, because that can happen. But if you look at what's there, if you look at the 7 guys or 8 guys or whatever it is that are currently on the roster, 9 guys on the roster. That's a solid core.
Right now,
there's a lot of talent there.
Right now, you got Roberts. In terms of players that will play, Roberts, Gay, Bama, Jackson, Yaki, Rodman, and then Miles Rice. So yeah, I do think Miles Rice will play a lot. And
there's a good chance he could start.
Yeah, it seems like the staff is really high on him. Kind of makes you wonder why he didn't play this year, but I guess maybe they just figured they had what they needed. They probably thought Noah was going to be more of a playmaker than he was, and didn't. And then you already get into the season, you're like, well, we're just going to stick with this red shirt. And he probably could have used the time to put on some weight, and but you always kind of worry when a guy, even when it's transfers, the old the year off transfers, it always seems to, and they haven't played a real game in over a year, seems to take them a little bit to adjust. So I do expect Rice to play a lot early, but I expect there to be an adjustment period. But again, they still, like right now, like they need to bring in another guard at least, because you can't roll with this many guards, because they lost Koulibaly and Rapp. Now those guys weren't playing, but also it was nice. Like, they came in desperate situations, and Koulibaly got a lot of minutes early in the season, so that Roberts and Flowers
when
wouldn't totally wear
down, and whatever.
So that kind of stuff's important to have that depth, because a couple years ago we had Bonton just could never come out because we didn't have anyone on the bench really, and that's why you saw Rapp play so much, because we didn't really have anyone else to come in, and then Bonton would end up, just wearing down by the end of the season, both the years he played, because he was playing 90% of the minutes when he was in. You don't want to see that. But, if Lucas comes in, he's a guy that plays 80+% of the minutes, and he's probably going to do that for WSU. He's shown he has that durability. So that's a guy that would be a positive addition. Not saying that they're going to get him, but, there's a possibility. The other two, I think it was, what were the other two? There was, I think San Diego State, and then, another kind of mid-major school. So, if he wants to stay in the Pac-12, WSU is the place to go. So yeah, they're going to add guys. There's no, they have to, like, they have scholarships.
It'll be nice to have that to talk about.
Yeah.
Instead of the other stuff, we start talking about how this team is shaping up.
And like you said, strong possibility that someone else is going to leave, it sucks, but it's just the reality. We're all doing this like balance of like, I love the autonomy that the players have, the control over their own situations, the potential for the American players to, get, earn something. But at the same time, it makes it a lot harder as a fan, just to be like, the season's over. If this was 10, 15 years ago, we'd be like, yeah, we got all these guys coming back. We know exactly, we're thinking about that 2006-7 team to the 7-8 team. We're like, yeah, all these guys are coming back. They're going to be even better, but now it's like,
I mean, really all we'd be doing is waiting to see if FA was going to go into the draft. That's really all we'd be like, oh man, but I think our guy Bryce, put it best. Like, this is just the way it is now. The way you build a team is just going to look different. I don't know if it's going to be better or worse. I think we all sort of, as fans, we sort of long for the stability, right? That came from, the team you were just talking about, right? But, those days are gone, and it doesn't necessarily mean that this team can't still be really good next year. You can very easily make a case that, man, you bring in Jared Lucas, you bring in Adrame, and you bring in like an experienced point guard, and you're like, yeah, you're probably better than you were last year, especially with, as long as nobody else leaves, the growth that you're going to see from guys like, Yakimovsky and Deshaun Jackson and especially Muhammad Gay. Like, Muhammad Gay, I think legit could end up being an all Pac-12 first team type guy.
Oh yeah.
So you just make a couple of additions, maybe pick up, sort of a toolsy high schooler that's not going to threaten anybody's playing time. And, hopefully everybody sticks and you're ready to rock and roll for next year. You just got to get used to the uncertainty, I guess. That's what I've been trying to tell myself anyway, is just, this is the way it is and it's going to be okay. And, I'm a little nervous about the fact we haven't added anybody yet. Cause it seemed like we added people faster last year, but maybe not. I guess I would have to go back and look, but, we'll all feel a lot better once somebody actually, shows up.
Exactly. It's funny when we talk about basketball, just to your point, Flowers, signed with, or committed to WSU, we reported it on April 10th last year.
Okay. So it was a little bit earlier.
Obviously the stuff with
the Groves brothers,
the Groves brothers, that played out a little bit longer, I believe, when they committed, and then we had the stuff with, the other kid from EWU,
Kim
with
Aiken.
the grad school, Kim Aiken, and I think it was June by the time Yakimovsky came back, to WSU.
Yep. It was later than that. It was after your engagement.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Oh, it was.
Kim,
it
was. Kim Aiken committed on April 22nd. So he committed right about this time.
Okay.
Yeah. So
the Groves,
I don't know.
The Groves brothers were April 18th to Oklahoma. So we're kind of in that time. We're in that realm. So things should start.
Dominoes start to fall. I hope
things should start happening, because really, like, there hasn't been, Noah committed, but it's really been like this week when you've started seeing kids commit out of the portal around the country. So I think we'll start to see a bigger wave. And then like FA, it might be closer to the draft. When is the NBA draft? I don't even.
I think he has until June 1st to decide. whether he's staying in. So it's a ways away.
Maybe a ways away before we find out where he goes. And some of the, there's other kids like FA who are in the portal and also have it declared. So there could be a lot of like good players available in July. So we got to be patient, I guess. But I would love an addition soon, because I'm feeling I'm getting some sad vibes going on right now.
Feeling a little left out right now.
Yeah, exactly. But we should take a break. We'll come back. We'll talk about the spring game coming up this weekend. And then maybe a little bit of baseball. But yeah, let's take a quick break.
Back.
Well, Jeff, real quick, before we talk about the spring game, which is really, now that it's in Pullman, even when it was in Spokane, just a weekend, like for fans, just like this casual football tailgating weekend, which I've come to love it as. So, obviously we're drinking lots of beer, so I know you're not going to be there. So let's talk about the beer you're drinking now instead.
The beer I am drinking now is the Reuben's Brews 10th Anniversary Series Dream Team number 3 with Great Notion Brewing and Fort George Brewery, two of our faves. It's got great can art. It's got a dude in a Reuben's Brews referee outfit throwing up a hop, and the dude from the lumberjack dude from Great Notion, and some like Power Rangers looking dude from Fort George. It's like a tip off with a giant hop. So this is a hazy IPA. It is delicious. The color, it's very light actually in color, almost kind of pineapple juice looking. It's definitely got some of that pineapple to it. It is delicious. And, 3 of my favorite breweries there between, Great Notion and Reuben's and Fort George. And, I was excited to find that. I love all these collabs they're doing for their 10th anniversary. It's very cool.
Yeah. That's, it's kind of funny. It's like a 3-way IPA, but not a 3-way IPA.
Correct. Yeah. Because it would have to be brewed and canned by Fort George to be the 3-way? I don't know.
Well, no, because the 3-way is, a set. They pick 2 breweries each year, usually one from Washington, one from Oregon. And they do betas and they do all that, they test it out. So they're already releasing some of the test batches, because it should be, in the summer it generally gets released. And I've been seeing some of the test batches out and about. But yeah, 3 pretty solid hazy IPA making outfits there. Great Notion for me. There's the good and the absurd, and I'm not quite as fond of them as I used to be, just because I'm not as big a fan of some of those like big smoothie IPAs and smoothie sours and stuff that they do. Obviously I drank one from a different brewery a couple weeks ago, but not something I generally seek out. But I think they do make solid, just their standard hazy IPAs are very good.
Yep. Yeah, this is good. What are you drinking?
So this is a brewery I had never heard of before. I was over in Yakima for the holiday this weekend visiting family. My dad and I stopped by a place called the Beer Den downtown. Also, I'd never been there. Didn't even know existed, honestly. It's on 2nd Street there. If you in Yakima, the 2nd Street Grill is right there. The classic, it's right next to Silver Heels, which any 90s kid in Yakima is very familiar with Silver Heels. your number one place to get Doc Martens and Birkenstocks. So, Silver Hill's still going strong, right next to there. So for my Yakima folk, I have now located it for you. So yeah, nice place. They have some taps. They have some beer in the coolers. This beer is, from a brewery in Bend called Spider City Brewing Company. And it is Deer Hugger Hazy IPA. Just, a solid hazy IPA. They say it's got a lot of, it's finished off with a lot of, New Zealand hops. It's very citrusy. But yeah, it's a very well done hazy IPA. Interesting about them. I looked them up. I don't know if you had been familiar. I know you go to Bend sometimes, but, they have two locations. They have a brewery and then they have like a downtown tap room. But they are, the interesting thing about them is they're, completely female owned. So it's two twin sisters and their best friend from, college at Chico State. So I'm sure they were influenced there by, Sierra Nevada Brewery, which is in Chico. So they decided to start a brewery together, and it's named Spider City is because, that's the nickname of their garage, which they started brewing out of. Cause I was like, wait, is Ben called Spider City by anyone? No, it's not. That was just a nickname from their garage. If you are afraid of spiders, you probably not like their logo. It is kind of a creepy looking spider. But yeah, pretty interesting story. I'm kind of surprised I'd never heard of them before. But I picked it up because I had just never seen their beer around, and it's pretty solid.
Awesome.
And I assume since you had nothing to say, you had never heard of them and had never been to the tap room.
No, I have not. I have not ever heard of them. It has been a few years since I've been to Bend. Maybe 2019.
Yeah.
Like it's been, I definitely haven't been there since the pandemic hit.
Yeah.
May have been down there in December of 2019. I'm trying to remember. It was I think it was December 2019 when we went down there for our anniversary. Yeah. The before times. So yeah, have to go down there again. Maybe this summer. That'd be fun.
Yeah. Well, now you can go to Spider City Brewing.
Yeah. Might have to do that.
Yeah. So yeah, that was the beer. Now let's talk about a little spring football.
Yeah.
I'll
give the people what they want.
I'll be headed out to Pullman this weekend. Can't get enough of a football weekend in Pullman. This is always the most chill football weekend. There's like a tenth of the people, and they still do they do an RV lot and all that. So you can still have fun with that. But yeah, Jeff, outside of, that part, what from the football side, what are you looking for in the spring game?
Yeah. I mean, I think so. It's hard to know, like we go over this every year. What are you supposed to take away from this, right? Like, if the offense is good, does that mean the offense is good, or does it mean the defense sucks? If the defense is good, does that mean the defense is good or the offense sucks? Like, what does it mean? And, but I do think that there is an element of, you can definitely tell who can play. And sometimes you can also tell kind of who can't play. And we kind of saw that, with, not to throw dirt on the kid, but, we kind of saw that with Cam and Cooper, right? Where it was like, I'm not sure he's got it. And conversely in that same spring game, and this was when, Gage Gabrud had been, recruited, and everybody just sort of assumed, all right, well, he's probably going to be the guy. And Anthony Gordon goes out and proceeds to just sort of light everything up. And we all went, oh, well, that's cute. Anthony Gordon's making all these plays. But I don't know if you remember this, but I distinctly remember a throw that Anthony Gordon made. I think it may have been to Renard Bell. But right on the sideline, he kind of dropped it in a bucket on sort of like a deep out or a little like corner, something like that. And he dropped this throw in between like a corner who it was like a cover 2 look or something where there was a corner sitting kind of shallow, and then there was a safety kind of over the top, and he found that little gap in between. And I just remember it being like, holy shit, that was a really good throw. And as it turned out, the guy could actually play quarterback, go figure. So,
set a couple records.
I do think, he was okay. So I do think that there's a little bit of element of that. I distinctly remember going to a spring game in Spokane and watching Frankie Louvu kill people and just going, that guy's really fucking good, So I think there's some of that. I try not to read too much into, just sort of the overall, like, I don't want to see the offensive line looking like a turnstile, right? Like sacks are going to be, they're going to be inevitable because all you got to do is touch a guy. Like, okay, fine. But it's like, are you going to look like you can't block anybody like we did in the Sun Bowl, or are we going to look a little better than that? So I'm hoping to look a little better than that. And you can tell when a defense is sort of making plays and when an offense is inept. And, so I really kind of like the offense to not look inept, but I'm also preparing myself for the worst because, it's a new offense. So I don't know. That's kind of the stuff that I look for. I will be watching it from my couch on Pac-12 Network. So, bummed out to not be there, but that's what I'll be hoping to see.
I'll be watching it from the suite. So,
one of the few places that might be more comfortable than my couch.
So, some little fringe benefits from all them youths that have joined us recently.
That's right.
That's right. At Cougs Center, they get to experience that sweet life. We have to name that the Cougs Center suite at this point. I'll talk with BA and Katie about that, and all the other people.
See if they'll go for it.
Can we name it? Can we just name it?
Yeah,
whatever.
Just put a sign on the outside.
Yeah, just put a sign on the outside. Sorry, Coug fan, you don't have your own suite. But yeah, so it'll be fun. I'm looking. We got some transfers on defense. What is it? Henley, the kid that interesting story. How he's changed positions 3 times in college. Interesting to watch him. Obviously, athletic kid. And then Chad Ward, other guys that they brought over. Are they going to look the part, or are they going to be playmakers? They want to be a playmaking defense. Should I be worried if they pick off Cam Ward, or should I be worried if they don't? I'm really excited to see Cam Ward play, like you said. I just to see him in person, to see that arm.
Yeah, that's going to be fun.
See the way he reads the deep. We had such a there's this kind of, I'm saying a lot, obviously, because I'm trying to figure out what I want to say, but there's this hesitation moving back to the air raid on this first year because we all remember what that first year, even the first 2 years of the air raid under Mike Leach was. It is not an easy offense to just pick up and roll with. Now, Cam Ward was running this exact same offense last year, so that helps. Now, Renard Bell probably still has some muscle memory on the routes he's going to run, so that helps.
I hope.
He's just got to remember that they're not option routes anymore. He's got a place to always go. So I there's some hesitation there. But we'll see, see how they're working it, see if their routes are tight, their mesh is tight. See if Cam is making those corner throws, those to the quarter sides. It's which we know he can make, but it's always more impressive to see it in person. It's nice that he has been playing in every scrimmage. It feels like, we get these big players and they don't play, but he's been playing. So it's just, and you talked about the best, there's always someone that surprises you. I'm looking forward to that. That's always fun when you watch a spring game, because otherwise it's like fucking boring. Like, it's so boring to watch. It's only like the big plays that make it fun. Because otherwise,
Yep.
like, it's just not fun to watch because they're doing weird shit. The rules are weird. So we'll see. We'll get to see if Dickert likes to do weird shit in his spring games like Rolovich did, and so we'll see that. But otherwise, like you're watching a practice game, so you're just hoping to see someone make a play, and that's it. And yeah, it's hard to read into it too much, but there are some things like you said with some of the guys you named. It's almost more of you can find out a guy can't do it more than you can find out a guy can do it. When we're seeing it's much more obvious when a guy just doesn't have it versus a guy can look really good in the spring game and still be nothing, right? But
Yep.
because it's practice and he knows exactly what the defense does or he knows exactly what the offense is doing, it's. But if a guy knows all of that, plays against this offense or plays against this defense every single day, and still is looking terrible, that's always a red flag. So, but honestly, I'm gonna be in a certain state when this game is going. So no promises on any insight from the Hawks Nest. I'll be up in there. We got a little room. Who knows how much we'll even be watching the game. Let's be honest. Although I know BA will I'll be sitting next to BA and we'll be watching. But
that was definitely the most fun part about it. A few years ago when we did that was just the running commentary with all of us and BA and just like, and Katie and just like, and it's great because you can laugh about all of it.
Yeah.
Right?
So none of it matters.
When Cam Cooper throws his 18th interception in 5 possessions and you're like, how does a guy throw 18 interceptions in 5 possessions? I don't know, but it's funny. It's like,
yeah,
that's okay.
When he throws a pick, they're like, nope, bring it back. We're running that play again.
Bring it back. He's the quarterback, all-time quarterback. Just let him go.
I think,
we can laugh about
he threw 150 passes that day. I think not even.
He might have. He might have, and I don't think he had a touchdown. That's not trying to rip on the kid. I'm sorry. Just but it was like, man, for all you people who are still like, man, I don't know. I wish Cam Cooper had gotten a shot. No. He got plenty of shots. He had plenty of chances. He really did. And he just was not good. I wish him all the success in the world at Hawaii. I hope he's great. I hope it's awesome. But also, man, the kid was not good at our school. And he was not going to be good at our school. So, but we can laugh and we can smile and it's short. It's like 2 hours and then you get to go back to the tailgate and you don't have to be sad that somebody lost. You just get to be happy that all your friends are there and you get to drink beer. It really is the greatest thing.
Yeah. I'm excited. We're planning. We got a lot. We have such a large, which I was very reminded of, at my bachelor party. We have such a large stable of writers now because my friend Cade was sitting next to me at the Coug, and every damn person coming to the bar would be like, "Oh, this is Kat. She writes for Coug Center. This is Emma. She writes for Coug Center. This is Nate. He writes for Coug Center. And this is Jess. She used to write for Coug Center." And he's like, I know. He's like, does everyone write for your website? I'm like, kind of at this point. I think so.
Kinda.
We
and
got
there's 10 other people who aren't even here right now. Whatever. Yeah, no, we are, I say this all the time, but we are so lucky, man, to have the people that we have. I have no idea why they all stick around, because the pay sucks. I guess maybe it's fun. I don't know. I've tried to make it fun over the years because I'm like, must be something. And the Slack is pretty great. Because otherwise, I mean, the pay is shit. Nobody's patting you on the back.
We could say it again.
Well, I take that back. The pay is shit. Pennies for downloads, that kind of stuff. But it's on some level we have a ton of fun. It's our own little community, my best friend whose wedding, I'm his best man, I met only through Cougs Center. It just is what it is. It's become a fun little community where we hang out. And I think it's funny now with all the youngins. I'm like, man, sometimes I feel really old and sometimes I don't feel old. And it's kind of funny, man. It's funny.
I always feel I'm picking Emma up from the airport on Friday morning. We're driving straight over to Pullman.
Nice.
So she's probably gonna pump that playlist with lots of Harry Styles and whatever the hell else the kids listen to.
T-Swizzle,
probably.
You got some Taylor Swift incoming.
Yeah,
for sure.
So that'll be an interesting playlist. Get me hyped up on that long drive. Maybe Emma's
and
not
then
done
and
that
then you're gonna flip it over to some mid 2000s, emo rock.
Exactly.
And give Emma the tour. It'll be great.
Exactly.
It'll be a cultural experience for both of you.
Yep. And, although I've really our buddy Zane, one of the other writers for the site, he turned me on to Dua Lipa recently, and man, she fucking jams, dude. Like that. Her last album is just full of bops, as they say. Good stuff, and Amanda likes it, so it's always nice to have something we both. Well, she likes all the emo too. We like to just listen to emo and get our kids into it. The kids need to know about early 2000s emo. It's an important genre of music. And so the olds need to know about it too.
Yeah. I mean, the world your kids are growing up and my kids are growing up into, it's probably going to be filled with sadness and despair. So
yeah, exactly. We need
might as well get them the music to cope with it.
Exactly. We need to have ways to express this sadness and despair that are healthy.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you come to us for all the spring game coverage, we're probably not the place to be. We're more apt to talk for 25 minutes about a single basketball player transferring. But let's briefly, this feeling like a short episode unless we really start talking about baseball. But I don't want to.
I don't have a lot to add, but we can try.
So baseball just came off kind of bit of a disappointing weekend. Lost 2 of 3 to Cal, but the reason it was disappointing is because they took 2 of 3 from a top 10 team, Arizona, in Tucson the weekend before last, which was just insane given the stretch that they have been on, where they had lost almost all of it. They beat Utah once, but before that got swept by UW, got pasted by Gonzaga. They I think they got swept by Stanford in there somewhere. But it's crazy that the baseball team, not a good record. I think, what are they, 13-20, something like that. I could find this out in like a second. I don't know why I'm just talking.
I think that's pretty close.
They're 13-21.
I think that's pretty close.
13-21, not a good record, but they have beaten Oregon State, who's currently ranked in the top 5. They've beaten twice Arizona, who was in the top 10 at the time, probably will still kind of hover around there. So they have some legit wins, but they have just not been able to put, because it's really the pitching is really bad, and then the hitting is also bad. It's just,
it's like it's kind of all of it.
And then sometimes the fielding really lets them down. So they're struggling in a lot of areas right now. They lost obviously with losing Manzardo, and then they lost their number 1 pitcher too. They lost a lot. Just having Manzardo in the middle of that lineup, you were kind of guaranteed.
Yeah.
A couple of extra base hits every game.
Yes.
That were driving in a few runs. Now they don't have that. So you see a lot of 2 and 4, which is, 2-run games, 3-run games, 4-run games, whatever. But right. Sometimes, they string them singles together and they get just enough done. And they did that against Arizona. So that was fun. And they got the Friday win against Cal, and then again struggled on the weekend. They have a midweek game against Seattle. Apparently Seattle plays in Bellevue. I didn't know that. And then they're visiting they're at Oregon. Then they have a pretty long homestand with Gonzaga, USC. Gonzaga, who just also beat Oregon State and Corvallis. They're probably going to be a top 10 team as well when they come in. So that, they got Gonzaga, USC, Utah Valley. So, if you're looking to catch a game, like there's games 26, 29, 30th, 1st, 6th, 7th, 8th rolling through all in Pullman. And those are the last ones until the end of May. It's kind of what this baseball season's flown by. Kind of a bit of a disappointment, I'll say, so far.
Huge disappointment, man. Like we expect these things to be linear, right? We're like, okay, you got a little better. Now we're going to get even better. And sometimes it works out that way, but most of the time it doesn't. And, college baseball, especially, we talked about the volatility of college basketball. College baseball is kind of the same deal. Cause you got guys, leaving after a short time. Even if, they come there, they can leave for the draft after 3 years, but if they are JUCO guys, maybe they come in, they spend 2 years at a JUCO, they come in for a year and then they leave. Like you got to be comfortable with the roster churn. Sometimes it's going to not really work out in your favor. And this year seems to be that. I will say that, Brian Green came to Pullman with a reputation as a guy who really maximized offense. Really was really well known for developing hitters. The other thing that maybe is just like sort of a tiny bit concerning, is that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think Manzardo followed him from New Mexico State, right? Like, or maybe it was another kid. There were a couple other kids, couple of good hitters who followed him from New Mexico State. So anyway, there were some guys who followed him, who were really good, and they're gone now. And so anyway, you kind of sort of go, are we okay? But it's possible it's a bad run. It's possible that the arms just need some time to develop. I mean, I don't follow them close enough to know exactly what the issues are. But I do know that, I follow them enough to know that, we all thought they'd be better. And they haven't been. And, but I do think it's humorous that, there already are people who are like, I don't know, is Brian Green the answer? And I'm like, oh my God, people. Like, these have to be the same people who were like, I don't know, man, starting to lose some faith in Kyle Smith. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't know. It seems like those have to be the same people, right?
Right. Yeah. Manzardo, by the way, he's from Coeur d'Alene. He was WSU all the way. So I think you're right. There were some guys that followed. I can't remember exactly who they were. But I will say, so Manzardo, if anyone wants a little pro update, so he last year he 43 at bats in the rookie league, 349 average, 440 on base, hit a couple dingers, and now he's off to a nice start in high A. He's through 5 games. He's gotten 16 at bats, 375, 538 on base. No dingers yet, but 3 doubles. So he's looking like he's equating himself well to the wooden bat, which is also always a challenge, but seems to be tearing it up so far. So be fun to see if he in a couple years can work his way up. But yeah, so baseball, we would have talked about it a lot more this year, honestly, if they've been better. It's just there was a few times we were sitting at the end of the podcast and I could talk about baseball, but do people really want to hear about how they just got swept by someone? Like we'll talk. We talked about them more last year when they were kind of a fringe potential. If there was a time when they were kind of a bubble team, but that kind of went away. But yeah, hopefully we can. Maybe this is just a little bump in the road, and they can bring it back next year. I think there's a lot of young guys, and so we'll see. Jeff, any other thoughts? not even at an hour and a half yet. What's going on?
I know. No, I have no further thoughts.
So
I hope that, we get to do this in a week and that the basketball team has added 1 or 2 players and, we can celebrate, the remaking of that roster. We can talk about how Cam Ward is going to be a superstar because he threw for, 6 touchdowns in a spring game. And that's what I'm hoping for.
Yeah. Too bad we don't get to do our at the tailgate, podcast this year. I was looking forward to that. It didn't work out though.
Know.
Again, we're humans. We have, Jeff's got 400 kids. That's a lot to deal with. Or
it's
one more kid than I do. But his kids eat a lot more than mine do.
Yeah, that's true. That is true.
But they can also watch themselves, which
that is also true.
Looking forward to that.
It is pretty great. I have one who can watch the other 2.
I know. There's sometimes I've been hanging out with you. I'm like,
too.
You and Sarah, and I'm like, who's watching the kids? You're like,
I know.
Watching them say the big one is watching the other 2.
We went out to dinner for your birthday. It's like, the kids are at home. I got a teenager.
Got yourself one almost ready to drive.
I know. God, I know. It's not far away. And then graduation's not far after that, and college is. Man.
You're so old.
He was just for the record, he was a year old when I started Cougs Center.
Yeah.
So
I remember.
Don't get old, kids. Don't get old. It sucks.
But yeah, so I'll say, if you're interested in kind of learning more about who WSU was looking at in the transfer portal and who they're looking at in the high school players, Bryce Hendricks has been putting out very good content around that on Cougs Center. So follow that stuff. He does real nice in-depth breakdowns of each of the players and how they fit with WSU. So I don't want to steal his shine on that. We probably, at some point, probably in the next month or so, probably should have Bryce on to talk about some of this stuff.
Yeah,
I don't know how he sounds on the, but he has his own podcast, so he's probably just fine. Sorry, Bryce, I haven't listened to your podcast yet. Sorry.
Yeah, me neither.
Not
Sorry,
really
man.
that into the NBA draft. But if you follow our site, Bryce really knows his shit, and he works his tail off to make those things pretty damn good.
It's true.
So follow Bryce on Twitter. I can't off the top of my head remember what his Twitter account is. Is it Bryce Hendricks 14? I think.
I think that's right.
All your draft breakdowns, and then if you follow NBA, he's pretty good follow for that too. He's kind of my one, like him and his little community that he retweets is like all the NBA I get mostly. Bring the Sonics back. But if you want to follow us, I'm at the Craig Powers on Twitter. Jeff is at Pod versus Everyone. I expect a lot of Mariners content from me over the summer. So sometimes I ruffle some feathers. Apparently, I'm too negative. Sorry, guys. I'm a Mariners fan. It's I can't I'll believe when it's time to believe. All right, that's what I have to say. Yeah. Come on, Julio. I need to see you hit a dinger. But I will say he looks like he has the tools. Just hit a fucking home run, because we know you can hit a 450-foot home run. So do it. Yeah. If you want to follow me on Instagram, I have a TikTok now, and if I get some followers, I might actually post more on there. I'm very proud of all my Mariners hats ones.
Yeah.
I only have 2 on there so far. My proudest TikTok on there is when I finally beat Marty in a chugging competition, which Marty and I have been chugging against each other since we were in college, and Marty has always won. Marty is an expert chugger, but She just wasn't on her. I didn't even chug exceptionally fast. She just wasn't on her game that day. But you know what?
It all counts the same.
You know, the Washington Generals, they get one every once in a while. So, but you know, so yeah, I got a TikTok and my Instagram are both at Craig W. Powers. TikTok is hilarious. I'm starting to get into it now. Now I know the meaning of endless scroll because holy shit, that stuff just keeps coming.
It's so
just
true.
Keeps coming.
It's so true.
Like it never stops. And there's so much of it, you could skip like 40 of them and you don't even care.
Yep.
And then there's like one that you like. Like there's this one guy that does like modern day Seinfeld. It's funny as hell. I should shout him out. I don't know what he's called. His videos just pop up on my feed.
Well, that's the thing. Like my favorite guy is the guy who makes the dramatic customer service videos.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And I'm like, I have no idea what his name is. All I know is he makes, I know he's got a mustache and he makes dramatic customer service videos. And they crack me up. And that's kind of it. So it's basically that guy and barbecue Twitter or barbecue TikTok is kind of my, that's kind of where I'm at. Although I've started to find barbecue Instagram, which is why I ended up following you because I'm like, oh shit, I don't follow Craig on Instagram. Like tell you how much I'm on Instagram, right? Which is like never. I'm like, oh, it's like suggested follows. And I'm like, shit, man, I'm not following Craig. Well, I better fix that. So, no, sorry, man.
Follow me. My best friend now follows me. So why don't you?
That's right. I endorse this. I endorse following Craig.
Yeah, you know, if you like pictures of beer, pictures of my kids, pictures of me wearing hats, all those things.
You're just missing pictures of food, and you'd be like everybody else on Instagram.
Yeah, well, that's
so get on that.
Beer is food, you know.
Yeah. You got me there.
I also, admittedly, don't post on Instagram that often. Maybe like once or twice a month. Who's got time for that shit? I mean, I do the.
I know.
What do you do? The stories. That's what anyone does.
Yeah,
anymore.
Yeah. The reels.
You know what I noticed?
Or whatever.
You know what I've learned about the kids on Instagram? They delete their posts regularly because you don't want to have like hundreds of posts and only like 100 followers. So you got to keep deleting them so it looks like you only have a few posts and then like a bunch of followers. So it's like you just got a bunch of, so people don't see all your low engagement posts from when you were first started posting on Instagram.
Yeah.
But I don't do that. You could see all the Instagram posts I have ever made back to like 2015 or something, right on there. Maybe even later than that. So, you can endless scroll just all my beer and pictures of my children. And before I had children, it was pictures of my pets. It's kind of funny how you start taking less pictures of your pets once you have your children. Sorry, Baxter and Schooner and Boycat.
Boy. I mean, do you even really love them anymore?
I mean, at less because like they're shitting all over my basement, honestly. So.
Yeah. Well, at least they can't like wipe it on the walls or get it in their hair too much. Which kids do.
Oh yeah.
So
B had some shit on the wall that we kept trying to scrub off.
Nice.
Couldn't get it off. We have cleaners that come through every 2 weeks. They ignored it one time and we're like, those are bad.
Oh, thanks.
But it's like a company that's like different cleaners that come in every week. The next group got the shit off the wall. So good for them. B no longer has shit on her wall. So she did what she will always and forever on her have on her wall is butt paste, because that shit cannot come off.
It is chemically engineered to not come off.
Yep.
That's just it.
If you have stuck around and listened to this last 5 minutes of banter,
this has been Butt Paste Talk with Craig and Jeff.
Rate us on your podcast app, 5 stars. Leave a comment on, Apple or whatever. Let us know you're listening. That also helps us with like showing up with algorithms like next fall when all the Cougs fans want to talk about football again. Cause I'll tell you, it's been tough shit with podcasting through the pandemic. People aren't driving in their fucking cars anymore. They don't listen to the podcast as much.
It's that bullshit.
So
go back to the office, losers.
Get your friends back. Get your friends back into the podcast game. Tell them. And also tell random strangers with a 5-star rating. Please. Please. And then maybe I'll be motivated enough to start a Patreon where I'll ask you for money. So who knows? Who knows?
Yeah.
But anyways, Jeff, might as well wrap this up. And with that, I'll say go Cougs.
Go fucking Cougs, Craig. Black Lives Matter.
Black Lives Matter.
Vaccinate.
Maybe a fourth time.
Whatever it takes.